still
day
massive.
this week.
Yeah.
Like 4 and checking roads.
I can just call you on the way in.
Yeah, that's what you should do. Mister, I'm up at 2
I
or
can
something.
handle
The
it.
back roads
What
are
do you have,
still
a 2 or
bad.
3?
3.
Yeah. You might want
Tony,
to hook
aren't
something
they
up with
bad?
that.
The back roads are still bad.
Called delegating.
Yeah.
Upward delegating.
No?
Hey, Tony.
Where you're at?
That's right.
What's it look like?
Don't tell the board I called you.
That's right.
I'm going to tell you right now, I'm always leaning towards building.
Me too. That superintendent went over to Oxford, caught. Go ahead, dang it.
Oh yeah.
Call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. Do we have young children here today?
They're out there.
Oh, they're playing?
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to have them lead the pledge.
Oh, they probably would.
Okay,
Wow.
let's grab them. We'll put them on the spot.
Hey, would you guys like to come in for a minute, lead the pledge? Please, thank you.
He's like, Usher.
Come on in, guys.
Cool. I know, you're in here.
Oh, go right down the middle.
Go right down the middle, Blaze.
Front and center.
Hey, hey.
Ready?
Welcome, gentlemen. What's your name?
Owen.
Owen. I'm Carrie. Nice to meet you. Cole. Cole, nice to meet you. Would you like to lead the pledge?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
It's all yours.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much,
Thanks,
gentlemen.
guys. Thank you.
Welcome, everybody, and Happy New Year. We have a full agenda tonight, beginning with awards, recognitions, and celebrations. Mr. Minecraft?
I think I shared that we had some really exciting news at the high school that we earned the AP honor roll. And some other interesting student achievement news. We found out that our 4th grade reading scores were the top in Genesee County just this past year. So that was something exciting, something to celebrate. And a lot of the work that's being done in reading is, continues this year with the new law. So it's something that we've been working hard at. So lots to celebrate there.
Thank you. Please give our regards to the staff.
I will.
Okay, consent agenda. We have before us, including the minutes from our previous meeting on December 13th, the agenda before you, and rescind a resignation request. I would entertain a motion.
So moved. Support.
Brian, any comments or questions? Hearing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're back to you, Ben.
Couple items. First of all, for those of you that aren't aware, the state of Michigan decided back in 2010 that they would start to withhold 3% of an employee's compensation for health care, and that has been challenged in court. It actually made it to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court just recently ruled that that was unconstitutional. So one of the things that schools, and this is part of what we have been working on here in the district, is there are so many questions that are unanswered about how this money now that is owed to all of the employees that have worked from those periods of time, how this money is going to be paid out. So for example, do you take the tax rate and FICA rate from 2010, 11, and 12 over that period of time? Do you take it on this year's tax rate? Do you tax it at all? What do you do with the interest? Can people put it into IRA or a form of retirement? These are just a couple of the many, many questions that are out there. And so the challenge that we have is that the state withheld this money, the Officer Retirement Service, and the process of which they decided to return the money to the employees is to send money to those districts. So we're getting money from ORS that we have to in turn figure out what to do in order to make sure we don't make any mistakes on the taxes and everything else. Naturally, the employees are hearing, well, you have our money, we want our money now. And the problem with that, unfortunately, is that if we issue checks and we do something incorrect in the hurry to give somebody the money that we have, we could be liable then for withholding funds that we shouldn't have in the first place. So we're doing our best. We're working with MSBO, MASB. There's actually a whole committee that we've been tuned into and plugged into. Stacy's been working a lot with our payroll department on how in the world to make sense of this. So I just want you to be aware that that's a big conundrum that every public school district in Michigan finds himself in now. And because each individual district is doing it, I can almost guarantee you that there will not be a universal way that it's done. There's going to be some districts that do things different ways, which could lead to potential problems. So that's a big item that we have going on in the district right now, and our employees are, obviously anxiously awaiting. I think it's good news for them, but it is going to be a challenge to figure out just and even things that you think about who has. Maybe that was withheld, they've since retired and then actually deceased. Is there a trust set up? There's all these different questions that are unanswered that we're working through right now.
Another question with that would be if it goes back to each tax year, would they have to redo their taxes?
And then would the district be required to issue another W-2 and 1099 on every year? It just is, the questions go on. So it's a mess. So we would have hoped that the ORS, who initially withheld the money in escrow, would have just simply, they had the information, they would have dealt with it universally and just distributed directly to the employees. But unfortunately, we're going to have to figure that mess out. So that is good news. Bittersweet for the district, good for our employees though, and I think ultimately the resolution was the right resolution, but it's something that will take some time. So, does anybody have any other questions on that?
Are the funds held in escrow so that it doesn't really go into our revenue stream?
Yeah, so they are going to be deposited into a separate account, but we already know they have a spreadsheet that tells us each employee's amount that they are owed back, plus there's a separate line which is interest that was earned over the time that is there, and that can't be taxed. So there's multiple checks that are going to have to be released. It can't be direct deposit. There's all these types of things, but yes, it will be in a separate fund is what we're being told now, but they're dispersing next week, so we're getting all of this information on the fly.
And they know how to contact the folks because they're receiving retirement dollars from the state, correct? So if somebody's moved to Florida, for example, they know how to get to them. So they know how to get to them?
Whether they know how to get to them or not does not mean that they're going to tell us how to get to them.
Yeah, they dumped it on the district.
They've pretty much given it to the districts to figure out, and unfortunately, a lot of us are trying to figure out how do we contact somebody who's been retired for the past.
That's what Russ and Mike were talking about the other day. Is how do you find these people?
Right. Yeah.
Because like people that have quit, moved on to different jobs.
Moved out of state, moved out of country. It's going to be very interesting. Also wanted to give you just a brief legislative update. The House passed a legislation. We have, as you know, I've talked about it. I even talked about it at our last board meeting. We have a sub-shortage problem. We're looking at addressing that with some positions, but we also know that the number of substitutes out there are just fewer and fewer and fewer each year. So the House Bill 4069 would lower the threshold for substitute teaching from 90 to 60 hours of college credit or require an associate degree. So that would hopefully expand the pool of eligible substitutes that could serve in that capacity. Obviously, I think some people have concern about the quality of what we'd be able to have, but at this point, I think that we would welcome the opportunity to have a fresh pool of people that we could. There's a lot of qualified people that don't have 90 hours of credit that I think would work well with kids. So we just we're on hold on that, but it looks like that has support in the Senate as well. So just some information that are impacting that. And then there was also a change to the seclusion and restraint law that's headed to the governor's desk. As you know, we passed some policies in the summer, and the new law went into effect at the beginning of this school year with seclusion and restraint. This bill effectively grants law enforcement officers who are acting as school resource officers more leeway in seclusion and restraint by not defining them as school personnel, which can be very helpful if there's a challenging situation that we'd have to intervene on. So those are two biggies. There's a couple others out there with CTE, but I'll keep you informed of that legislation as it comes through. If you ever have any questions about a bill, I try and stay pretty in tune with that, so let me know if there's a question on Many of you know we've been going around having conversations with the staff about staff values. In February, we're hoping to hold a workshop with the board to start our conversations about vision, values, strategic planning, setting some goals, really operating from where do we see the organization going moving forward so that we can start to champion those goals and communicate those out. So we're working, we've been around to each building, minus, I think, Deke, we got to get to Deke and the academy to do the values activity, and then I'll be meeting with board members individually to discuss that further, and then we'll meet hopefully in February for a workshop. The other big news that will impact you as board members, and you may already know this, and this may have come, you may have seen this relatively recently, but our server that we have had for our board notes is very old, and it continues to crash. So I asked Travis to find a solution, preferably one that was free. And we had a solution that is free, and so I wanted to ask Travis to make sure he walks you through how to access any of your board notes and board paperwork. And Joan was whizzing through there; she just had it figured out right away, and just in time for retirement. So, but thought we'd let Travis show you a little bit about your new board notes. Yeah, can you turn that light down?
Thank you.
Kudos to Joan. I was trying to hold out for her, but unfortunately, we have about an 11-year-old server that was just up and down, and it's just been taking a lot of time, and I think it's not a very good solution. It's not very secure-wise. So what we did was we are already a Google district, so we are using Google Drive, and we just basically created a simple shared folder, and I exported all the files from the old server into this. So what it looks like is if you have a Google account, I've sent you an invitation to your personal email addresses, and then also your school email address. If you need any help getting access to your school email address, feel free to contact me and I'll walk you through that. I know some of you have already done that. So when you sign in to your Google account, you're going to come over here to your Waffle. You'll come to your Drive, and this is where I host all your files. For you, you'll click on Share with Me. There'll be a folder called Board Documents, just like the old one. And then right here, you'll see how it's separated out by years, just like we have in the past. Instead of having archive language, it's just going to be, the year. And the way the last couple of years was, we kind of merged from January to January, but we modified them, and now we're just going to go from July for the school years, from July to June, end of June. So that way, the whole school year is in one folder, that correct year. For this year, you would click on 2017, 2018. Just like it was set up before, same naming convention. And then January 17th is our board meeting, so you click in there and that's all the files. So very simple, drag and drop. You can access it from any browser, your phone, any app. But very simple, very easy to use, and I think it's the best way going forward.
Could you quickly just reshare the document with all the board members? Is that easy enough for you to do right there? Just so that if they don't see the email in their account, they might be able to have access to it. I don't know if you were able to access it.
I was.
Okay.
Can you run it? But-
Was it?
Yeah,
I didn't see it.
okay. You can
Not,
send
I'll
it.
get it to you.
Okay.
Get signed down. But any questions?
Who's it coming from? You?
Yeah. No, it's coming from board@swcrk.org. So I'm using the same account that we use to stream the YouTube videos.
All right.
And you've also put, you started making an archive of the videos, which we have all of our board meeting videos posted on the channel on the website, but you have access to the archive copies in there as well.
I just figured it'd be nice to have another spot for you guys to access them if you want to. Maybe download them, put them on a disc. So
Yeah,
they're all in there right now. We're up to date. So
I just want to figure out how to bookmark it on my page.
okay, I'll help you.
But I don't know, I thought I did, but I didn't see it.
Maybe that's what I did.
What? Deleted it?
We think we deleted it.
Good job, Louise.
I'll resend it. Any questions?
No.
Okay. Well, yeah, just get a hold of me and I'll work with you and we'll get you all set up.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes my superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you, Ben. Any questions for Ben? All right. All right. We don't have any
Subcommittee reports yet.
No.
You don't have anything?
No.
Okay, no building in sight yet.
No, but I have a typed copy of the rough draft I turned in, if anybody
Okay.
wants to see that.
Oh, we didn't
You wanna
have
see it?
it.
Sure. I can get it at the end of the meeting.
Thanks, thank you, Brian. All right, down to informational items. We didn't have any questions to answer this time.
This
And-
time, and we had an employment. But
Right, employment of a non-certified staff that you were provided in the packet. Any questions on those? All right. Going down to the board discussion items, beginning with the calendar year 2018 Board of Education meeting dates. You should have a document in
Yep,
your
so I
packet.
think most of you got the proposed calendar, but I'm gonna pass it around again so that you have an updated one. Yeah, I think you've got it there.
Just in case.
So, as we looked forward to 2018, one of the conversations I'd like to have, and it actually feeds into our conversation about committees. This past year, obviously my first year, we saw that we ended up having a number of meetings that were quasi-committee meetings, where we would sit and we talk about policy, or we would do handbooks, or if we had to talk about a specific issue or goal setting, whatever it is. My hope is that in this next year that we would be able to continue that in some capacity. Right now we have two committees. We have Building Insight and Academic Achievement. And so I think when you only have two committees, oftentimes you need more board meetings. We started this year running.
Yeah, that's on here too, the
Yep.
hierarchy.
We started this year running the Independent Audit Review Team, and so my suggestion to the board would be to actually add two committees formally. We have the Independent Audit Review Team that's meeting already regularly this past year with Mr. Ahern, and my suggestion would be to formalize that committee into a finance committee, so that not only do we have the meeting run as it's been, with the audit and looking at our bills and looking at those things closely, which is so very helpful. But anytime we would take a look at, basically would operate as we have this year, looking at end of year projections, what our budget's looking at, any upcoming amendments, those types of things. So similar to what you're doing in your review, but finance committee encompasses really everything that you've been doing. And then the audit review is something that's ongoing that you do within that. And then the other committee that I would recommend that we establish would be a policy committee. That seems there would be the ability for any and all board members to attend that they would like to attend. It gives us the opportunity to really have some work sessions on that. So naturally, as a result of that, there are certain months where we must have two board meetings. I feel like it would be very difficult not to have two in August, not to have two in June and May, even in January. If you look at this calendar in December, I also asked for two meetings, and the reason for that is we typically do my evaluation, and I had a conversation with a couple of you, and the suggestion was, what if we had two board meetings instead of one in December, but one of them was for the purpose of doing the evaluation. And I think that's a good suggestion. So what you'll see here is many months have two meetings, some months have one meeting, but I'm also taking into consideration the addition of a couple committees of the whole, which I think will be more reflective of the type of things we did this past year.
What are your thoughts about the frequency of these meetings? Once a month, or is policy once a quarter?
I think you could have policy meet once a month, to review upcoming policies. The other piece to that is I think that when we do handbooks, you're probably going to meet a little bit more. You're going to have a longer meeting. I think we realized that this year that we needed some more time, and I think we can start that process earlier. So I think that policy committee will provide us with the ability to do some important work outside of a regular board meeting, and anybody that needs to be informed can get all of those notes and minutes.
So can you kind of give me an overall, like say I wanted to be on that committee this time, the policy one, what that will overall look like? Like, do we start out from the top to the end? Do you pick some? Do we pick, like?
Well, I think it could be largely shaped by the vision of the board, but and the people that are on that committee. We have regular review of policy. The intention would be that all of our policies over a 3-year period get reviewed.
Sure.
And so we have a selection that comes in every quarter. And it takes time to digest those. And so what I've been doing is, that's where you get those yellow sheets.
Yeah.
So the policy committee would be able to digest those, look at the laws, think about the implications, and then discuss, and then possibly come with a recommendation to the
Okay.
whole board. And again, I think having committees of the whole allows for anybody that wants to be a part of those conversations to be a part of them.
Okay, great, thank you.
If we're gonna start adding committees and whatnot, these meetings need to be held late afternoon or early evening though, because if they're held during the day, it's difficult for, here, maybe Ford County Stacy. So if we're gonna do that, I'd like to see all these committees switch to have a 4, 5, 6 o'clock time frame, which probably rains on your parade because you're gonna be stuck here for a while. But if we do them at 10 in the morning, 4 of us aren't really available.
Yeah, I
So-
think it needs to be flexible. There might be some committees that could meet early before work. There might be some that meet on certain days when people know they don't work. It might need to be in the evening, afternoon.
Sure.
So I think when we schedule those meetings, we can take into account anybody that wants to serve on those committees.
Sure.
For sure.
And then something else, and we don't need to create another committee for it, but, I think we need to go back some way, shape, or form to having some form of a personnel committee. Because with the third-party people that we hire, but we don't really hire, and some other things that have come to light, I think we need to do something different there. Because, I mean, I'll pick on the one that I brought up to you was when we hired, I apologize, God love her, I forgot her name, but when we hired our assistant principal at the high school, there was stuff that we just never got handed, in reference to her background and stuff. So I don't know that we need to institute what we had in the past, where every single thing went through there, but I think there needs to be some discussion, like when these third-party people are hired. It would be nice to review that before they're actually hired, so that if there's something that one of us sees there, like, no, that's not a good idea for whatever reason, that way we're not hiring them, but we're also preventing them from being hired, which I think is a good portion of our duty. Our duty is to hire people,
How can we tell them who to hire?
because we don't need to recommend them. We're recommending them. They're not just flying over there to
Talk
get
about
hired.
GM Burr people.
No, not DM Burr people, just,
Caregivers.
caregiver, there's an example right there. Why can't I have that documented before we do that?
I thought you said third party.
I believe she is. Or he is, whatever it is, I haven't even paid attention to the names.
So the nature of third party is that you have to have an arm's length, distance, if you will. So we hire non-certified staff, and that's the way that the board policy reads. The board would have to approve, with a few special circumstances, professional staff, so teachers and administrators. So if you were to have a personnel committee, which some districts do have, it would be for that purpose, but not necessarily for a third party, because if we don't really have, you have to have an arm's length agreement. So for board members to be reviewing that, I don't think you'd be able to make that case. So you could do that from a personnel perspective, if you wanted to do that for teachers and those, and I think you could probably do that you know, in the springtime as we're getting ready, or maybe the fall as we're getting ready to hire some of these positions, you know, that would be fine.
Well, we don't even know the position's available. And there's to me, there's a huge difference between someone from DM Burr and a third party. DM Burr hires people, ships them over here. We got zero control over that. Whatever this position, I'm not gonna say a name, whatever this caregiver position is, why show me now?
It's informational items, just so that you know who we've employed.
Okay, so hypothetically, if one of us, I hate to pick on this person because God only knows if the person's watching, see if they got hired or whatnot. But if you have anybody, hey man, I can tell you this about this. You might want to reconsider that. You're going to get rid of them. I mean, I understand we can't necessarily approve their hiring, but I don't know why we can't see who's on a list. If we hire a varsity coach that's a third party because they're not part of the district, but it's done through a third party, we shouldn't know who a varsity coach is.
Yeah, we can.
But that's my point. Is I would like to see a list of these names beforehand. You know, I don't even really care where they're being employed. Just see a list of names, so you at least look at names and go, okay.
But isn't part of that arm's length that they do all of the recruitment, the interviewing, and the hiring?
In some capacities, like in DM Burr is the example that was
Yeah,
given.
but not for that caregiver.
And so the caregiver would be somebody who we employ. You know, we hire that person directly.
But for through a third party, how does that process work exactly?
It depends on what position you're talking
Let's
about.
talk a coach.
So a coach would go through an interview process, and we would make a recommendation, and then the way that coaches are now paid moving forward is through their payroll is processed through a third party. And so that third party is actually called, it actually has transitioned. You might remember the name of it, but it just changed about a month ago. And so it's the recommendation that all schools in Genesee County have. A DM Burr employee, though, is somebody that we don't, they send those over.
Not even part of my conversation. If we take the time to interview a coach, the entire process is led by our athletic department. We're not hands-free on that. Because we're right in the middle of it, and we're making a recommendation that we want you to run the paycheck to Brian, for instance. Brian's a new baseball coach. So we weren't hands-free of that. The board was, but our school district wasn't. That recommendation came from the athletic department. So if we can go through all of that process, why can't that list of names come here too? I'm not saying we have to approve it, make any formal motion, anything else. But we would see that list of names before the hiring took place. Because if we can go through the process of hiring the person, whether it's in this building or Morris or anything else, it makes zero sense that the board wouldn't see it. I mean, it makes no sense. Because if you're saying we're saying arm's length, why don't Bendel interview our next basketball coach and make the hiring recommendation?
Yeah, arm's length in terms of, you know, I guess what you're really asking for is you want to see the list of names of people that we are going to be offering positions to. I think that's what you're really asking.
I don't want to give them a blessing or nothing else, but we see it after the fact. Hey, by the way, we hired these people. But yet, a bunch of them have been interviewed by building principals as aides. All the aides that are third party get interviewed by the building principals, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we're right in the middle of it. It's not like we're immune to it. We're hiring them. The only thing we're doing is going, hey, now go over there, and they're going to hire you, and we're going to run your checks through them. So what's the difference if a building principal tells them that, or we get to see a list of names of that? I mean, we just hired that person. Cut to the chase.
So Ken, if you're saying an informational thing where we're getting the information prior to the meeting, I mean, maybe the background or whatever, because you're not asking for a recommendation by the board.
None, no.
But you just want to be aware. so it's an informational.
Well, notify us before it happens, not after it happens. Because I mean, we're hiring that person. There's no circumventing that logic.
Mm-hmm.
5 people got interviewed for by Michelle Telega to be an aide, and she picked 2. We just hired them. I don't care how we circumvent the check.
Yeah. I think that you're getting into more of a philosophical question. It's very difficult for the number of people that obviously turn over, especially in those types of positions. It would be almost impossible for us to say those names have to go before the board before we would take action and hire them. That's the nature of why the board doesn't hire those people. It would be impossible to do business in that fashion. I mean, the speed of just business when an aide or somebody needs to be hired, if we had a board meeting and we could get it to you, I mean, we could make an effort to provide a list of the people that we're planning on, but it would be a very difficult task to do on a regular basis.
I can tell you right now, it's been done since this board existed. Until we went to third-party pays, every person came through here. Every person. Am I right?
But we really only approve the hiring of
Certified.
staff.
Seriously? We approve every coach that gets hired.
We used to.
Okay.
Yeah.
We approved.
Before it went to
We
third
say here
party.
approve caregivers. We approved everybody.
Marion, you had a question?
Well, it's not really a question, but what I'm getting from Ken's take, and tell me if I'm wrong, is when it comes to the board as an informational item, it's already a done deal. If you got that list out to us beforehand, and we'd say, hey, we know something about this person that they really shouldn't be working with kids, then we have an opportunity to come to you. Where now it's on here, and we're certainly not going to say in a public meeting, if it's something bad. Is that what you're kind of getting at? Okay.
Send it in an email.
I-
So if they're hiring
If you can notify me after they've been hired, why can't you notify me before they're hired?
So notify through an email?
Sure.
So business can
Sure, we don't have to
continue.
save it for a meeting. Send out an email.
That's the only thing that
I mean, it's those people are going through an application process, an interview process, then it comes over here to H. We sat here for whatever year we started the third-party payees. I think it was 2012 or 2013. Everything before that came to this board. We hired everybody. Everybody.
You didn't hire me to interview, you were just saying yes or no.
Yeah, we voted on them.
we had a personnel committee.
Yeah, we vote, whether you were aide at the elementary school or you were assistant principal, we voted on it. I mean,
But they were recommended already.
Correct.
So they were recommended by the
Correct,
administration.
but that's what I'm saying is I'm not gonna buy into we can't do it because we did it.
I'm just trying to learn, so
Yeah.
the administration before the principal recommended this aid,
Absolutely.
and then 10 times out of 10 you said yes?
Probably, yeah. I mean, we're-
So is there a lack of trust now?
No, it's got nothing to do with trust.
Well, I mean, if
It-
we recommend, if we take the recommendations and always go with it, I'm confused on why we should.
Maybe we'll pick this topic up later. How's that? Let's move
Carrie,
on.
can I ask a question about the board meeting? And it's just to throw out there, I think I've tried it before, just to
pick it up
see, is there any way that maybe we can move them from Wednesdays to another night? I know it's hard for everybody, but I asked Ben if I could ask. I'm not gonna be bothered either way, I was just wondering, because again, I would like to attend church on Wednesday night if I could, if possible, but I don't know if anybody has a problem with that.
I don't have a problem with it.
Let's stay-
Tuesdays, Thursdays, I don't.
Let's
I'm
stay away
fine.
from Mondays. Other than that, I don't care.
I mean, I can do Tuesdays, but I just thought I'd throw it out there. If it's not, then I'm okay. I just wanted to kind of throw it out there because when I first came here, they said they weren't Wednesdays, and then I got stuck. But if it's not going to work for you guys, I am so fine. I just thought I'd ask. So,
I'm flexible.
is it bad for you guys?
In this setup, the one advantage, even if we tried this year, that you would at least be able to go more regularly. right? Because you have fewer meetings here.
Oh, well, that makes sense too. You're
Yeah,
right.
so-
Well, you're right about that, actually.
So,
Because really on this, yeah,
You
you're
have meetings
right.
where there's one a month.
Okay, never mind. Thank you.
and then if we want to have
Okay.
a conversation, we can change it next
I
year.
love it.
if we
I
want
like
to.
it. Okay,
Yeah.
he's right. I wasn't thinking in that aspect, so okay, good.
So-
Never mind.
I appreciate your
Scratch it. Yes, I just really wanted to attend and they want to hire me, so I was trying to
Oh,
do a little bit of stuff there. So with this will
and
probably be
you
a little
can
better.
make an
so-
adjustment earlier if you need to.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
So what time would you need to be?
It's just starts at 7, so probably 6:30 to 8, but it's okay, yeah, it's
It's
good.
good to know.
Okay. But he's right, with this thing, I wasn't thinking it's a little different, so. Okay, good, thanks.
Okay.
So, so that's the proposed calendar. One thing on the calendar, in February, you'll notice that we have a special meeting there. And the idea of that special meeting is we had talked to the community about coming back with the information, deeper information on the facility study. So I'd like to honor that and give that information and let them know some of the details of that study, talk about the finances around it, let them know about the different projects. So I'd like to do that for that meeting.
Valentine's Day?
Yeah, I guess they,
Two things with that is because that's the
Wait.
long weekend as well, and
They're
so
going-
a lot
yeah.
of people will be gone.
No, they're going to the Washington trip, you won't get people.
so do we want
They're gonna have to, that's when they go
can we
away.
flip that around and do the 28th and 14th, switch the?
Absolutely, 'cause
So we'll do the
that's-
facility study on the 28th maybe?
Yeah.
Would it be possible to do it on the 27th?
What is that day?
It's a Wednesday.
Oh.
28th. Could we do it on Wednesday?
Mhm.
What, the facility study?
I'm actually going out of town on,
We talking facility study, 27?
So you'd have meetings on 27th and 28th.
We're gonna take
We
out
have
the
the
14th.
facility study on the 27th, and then we have a meeting on the 14th. Or are you saying you want to cancel the 14th altogether?
I wonder if you should, just because there are gonna be so many people out of town, and I might have to go from Jeff's place here, so.
Which is the
I
meeting.
probably won't be able to be there, so.
But that's just.
Oh, that's
meeting.
the facility study.
14th is just the meeting though. Facility study is.
Well, I
meeting.
know, but people wanna come, I think we need to give that open, there's a lot of people that go on that trip.
And it's a long
Truly,
weekend.
it's a long weekend, if people go
So they have
away.
Friday and Monday off.
I gotta work.
What are we celebrating that weekend, President's Day?
People
Yeah.
go away for the Washington trip, like it's huge, there's a lot of people, so.
I could care
I'd scratch the
less.
14th off.
I don't care.
16th and 19th is President's Weekend?
Yes, Monday. is-
Hey, let's spice it up. Let's do the 7th and the 21st. Just change it all.
Well, look at you.
And then we alleviated all the problems. Alleviates Carrie's problem, the
Okay,
long
so
weekend,
say it again, listen. I'm
7th and 21st, just move it.
I can get on board with switching the date. The 7th and 21st would be tougher for me.
Oh, okay. Well,
But
do that.
but we could do if we did the 27th and 28th, I mean, it'd be
Okay.
back-to-back nights. but-
27th is a facility study. Why you say that?
And then 28th board meeting?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to have two back-to-back,
It's
fine.
fine.
matter.
So I won't be here on the 20th.
Oh, that's right. She said she wasn't here at all.
Or I may, I'll have to check and see how late I can
Okay. Yeah, or we
I
can,
didn't even really look at the calendar, but I'm sure I'm fine.
or we can put it on a different night, an earlier meeting. And then the other conversation that I've had is that one thing that can be very positive is when board meetings are held, and I know that this was the case at times where we held a board meeting, say, at each building. So we pick a date throughout the year where we might have one at Gaines, we might have one at the middle school, we might have,
Yeah.
that way we can kind of make a little bit of a celebration, the kids can do something special for it. It's not something that, I just wanted to throw it out there as an option, if that's something you're interested in doing.
I didn't have a problem when we did it before.
I didn't have a problem with it. I didn't particularly care for it though.
Reason?
Huh?
Reason?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Why not? I mean, the benefit was it is usually it gave the building principal an opportunity to do something with their kids and bring them to the board meeting. However, it to me was disruptive that everybody knows the board meetings are here. And if someone wanted to do something with the kids, we can you're pulling them out of their homes anyway, so if you wanna do something and do something with the kids, we have it over at the Performing Arts Center. Instead of having it, you know, cause most of the time what they did was sing, or that was the majority of things. Like, again, have it at the Performing Arts Center, let them perform there rather than in their gymnasium,
Maybe, Ben,
I mean, that-
maybe you could
you know, so.
somehow ask the schools or the principals or the people that work there, parents, try to see, like, or have the PTO ask them if they liked when we did those there and see what their thoughts are.
We can schedule them
And then when we
keep
went,
them here.
and then when we went to Mary Crapo and the high school and the middle school, there was nothing.
Yeah.
Besides, we moved it to that building, and instead we walked in, we sat in the library, and then we walked out, rather than walking in here and having the meeting here. I mean, it was kind of meaningless to go, especially to go to those three venues.
I had asked Ben about it because we haven't done it since you've been here, just because of the fact that we had an opportunity for the buildings to showcase what they were doing and some of their themes for the year, and the kids could sing or do
I
whatever
liked
they
it
were
at the
doing.
elementary.
But I do like the idea of going back to the PTOs and the building administrators.
Let's
and
see
just
what
say,
they
See what
think.
they wanna do.
Is that too disruptive for them? Is there a benefit to having the board come there? Is
Yeah.
it an imposition?
find out. Sure.
I have no issues with the elementary schools. If they want us to come there, that's fine. But the high school, the middle school, Mary Crapo, I don't, there was never anything done with the children there. It was just a waste. We went to a different building.
Okay.
Well, maybe, yeah, I never know, like, maybe Mr. Kitchen has something new he's doing, you could check and see, I mean,
Yep.
it's worth a shot, or even Mr., at the middle school, they have the robotics, or I don't know, something that they look like they can shine too, but
Okay.
maybe you can check for us and
I
see what
can
they.
check on that for sure.
Thank you.
So, the committee and officer discussion, actually B and C are pretty related. So, we have historically had a Genesee County Association of School Board Members liaison and then an alternate. I know that Mr. Sapanic has served in that capacity, but we need to decide who those people are gonna be, if you're going to nominate somebody for that. The other piece to this is officers and board committees. So in the past, being that this is an organizational meeting, we've kind of just gotten right into it and we've started, naming out things. And so I just wanted to have a conversation, hopefully, so that we can go into when we get into action items and elect officers, we kind of have an idea on how. Not that you're all necessarily going to have to vote the same way, but just a conversation about who desires each office, if there's a if there's a desire to serve, and if any of the existing officers have a desire to not serve in that capacity, and then you can just give you an opportunity to have a conversation before we get into the actual nomination formalized process of the election of officers. So
Is that tonight or next meeting?
this is tonight.
Okay.
So your election of officers comes after this discussion. So, I think, I have had a great year this first year. Carrie's been excellent as a support to me. And so I don't know if you still even desire that post, but I think that the year has gone well, and I've appreciated that. But I also understand that, this conversation should be had by board members. So I'm wanting you to kind of say, this is something I'm happy to stay in. If there's a situation where anybody else desires that office, that you could talk about it and discuss before you vote.
I would just like to say it's first year, one whole year today for me. And especially Mike. I mean, what you've done last year, what you guys have done, I don't know why we'd want to change it. That's my opinion. We're working right now. It seems like we're working pretty good. So
I'll second that motion. All in favor?
I like status
Aye.
quo. I like,
Yeah, I think it's good. I think that for me, like, I've enjoyed my position. I think that Mike definitely has done amazing. And Carrie, I really, not to undermine Brian by any means, but because he's been here long too, but I definitely think that you fit that well, and you've done a great job with that. And I think that right now, if we stayed the way we were just for, another year, then I think it's good. Like, we're all doing great. We're all really moving forward. Yeah, I think I'm very satisfied where everybody's at right now.
I don't want to force it on, say, I just
Oh, no,
think
I'm
that's
okay
doing
with
fine.
my
If you guys
position. Are you
somebody
okay
elect-
with yours? Did you
I'm
enjoy
okay.
it, Brian?
yes, I am. I can tell you that the president's job in the hot seat
Yeah.
That's the toughest job of them all.
Yes, it
And,
takes a lot.
yeah.
I sit
gotta-
in a
I
hot
gotta
seat
say-
in my job quite often.
Right, so you got it.
To answer the question, I've enjoyed this a great deal, and I am so grateful to all of you because I am impressed by how everybody's worked together so closely. Congratulations, Tony, on your 1 year
Yes,
anniversary.
it is. Congratulations.
But I do think this group has worked well together, and we've come a long way.
We really have, and I'm very proud of where we stand today.
I got to say that I came here getting ready to nominate him. I'd like to see Tony in one of the positions.
I wish.
I'm back.
That's-
I'm back up. It's probably the easiest job of them all.
He sits pretty.
He's a diplomat.
Yeah, seriously.
If it's the easiest job, Tony, that's an easy job.
Oh, there you go.
But if you have to lead a meeting, it can become,
Yeah.
Stacy leads the meeting.
So,
and that's your
Well,
vice president.
and here's
you
the
gotta-
thing, like for me, like I feel, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I feel like for me, I would have to be on here longer to feel that I could fit a president seat or a vice president seat, because I think you have to be on here longer to be able to get your knowledge in that. So for me, I'm super happy where I'm at right now. I'm not saying if you nominated me, it wouldn't be flattering, but for me, like I've enjoyed this very much. And Mike, I think you need to stay where you're at as well. You've done great.
so one of the advantages of adding the
true.
policy committee is we now give an opportunity to someone else to chair
To be a chair.
the committee and to start to learn the process of
Yeah.
taking on an officer's position.
And the people that have
Or
the
somebody like
you're talking about
positions,
Tony.
let the other
Yeah.
people
Well, no,
be their
but if
chairs.
somebody's interested in growing and developing, like Brian is saying, in a leadership role, we've now potentially added another committee and maybe one in the future that gives somebody an
Yeah.
opportunity to do that.
And Lorraine, you've been on the academic team
Yeah.
before. You'd be great as a chair. Like, I think you're amazing. I think any of them, for sure. So I think that's a great opportunity for people that, want that chair opportunity on those as well. Do you know what I mean?
I want to ask Brian a question.
Yes.
Did you sit any meetings this year?
Nope.
Tony, he didn't sit any this year.
We're at,
That doesn't mean that I couldn't or.
He did what?
we're at
I mean,
ISD.
Terry's been here.
No, right here.
Yeah,
Vice
he's talking about
president.
vice president.
Oh,
Did I chair any meetings?
oh.
I started one, and that was
You
it.
started one.
Then she showed up.
I did one. I did pretty. Oh no, I didn't. I forgot. I
So,
messed up.
in terms of the
You made fun of
Genesee
me,
County
remember?
Association of School Board Members, does anybody have, Brian, you've been,
Yeah, you know what? I was there for several years.
What's
In fact,
going on?
an FYI, tomorrow they're having a meeting at the skills calendar.
Yeah, I saw
So if
that.
you'd like to show up at 6:30 tomorrow, Tony, I don't know what your schedule is, but these meetings are like once a month, 6:30. I don't know if you can make those,
We
but
don't really have balance.
what's good is that you're networking with the county, 21 other schools, and the ISD.
I think
They don't let
he's.
powers come.
Tony, I think he's right. Like for the liaison position, or what? I'm sorry, what we were talking about here.
Genesee County Association
Yeah, like
of
that's a
School
great thing for you to take. That's a great thing. That's how you get
I'll
your
back
foot in
you
the
up.
door. Do you don't?
Oh, he wants to be a backup.
But you know what I mean? That's a great part to
Oh, Stacy's
get your
doing
foot
it?
into
Yeah,
learn
I'll-
or to.
Stacy's doing it? All right.
So Brian, would you be willing to do it again, or would somebody else like that
I would
opportunity?
prefer not to. I've been there for.
Okay.
There
And
you
then,
go.
then we had a problem with our board meetings were the
Right.
same nights, and so that was really a hardship. And then leadership changed over there, and it changed.
Would you like to take that?
That's
And I'll be your alternate.
I think Ken would be
So
great
so
at
you
it.
have an alternate.
I'm not
so
even
if
allowed in
you-
the building over there.
If you can't, let the
Sure.
Okay, he's out.
So
Um,
Tony has indicated an interest in being our main representative, and Stacy has
Yes.
indicated, we don't have to determine that at this moment.
But I think
No,
that's.
you're doing it at an action item.
Right, but there's at least willing
You got like 5
participants.
minutes.
And they'll
Is
send
there
you an email.
anything
It's
to
easy.
prevent them from going at the same time? So if there's
No.
nothing to
No,
prevent them.
we could go
So-
together.
But as the official representative, you would be our
Yeah, and I'll go
main
with you.
person
Like
then.
I went in
And if
hands
it's
free, not
something
knowing
that's
what's
not
going
public,
on,
you
but
just
I found the room and figured it out.
And sometimes the
And
topic's
you know,
very,
Tony,
very exciting to go
It
to.
is, and it's super great because it does equip you for further. What are you laughing? Kids laughing at.
I was just looking at Tony.
It equips you further down the road to be able to take the positions and feel better about the position.
Hey,
I'm done with you people.
Look on the bright side.
I want
Stacy will bring
cake.
coffee.
I
I
will.
never get coffee.
No, well, no, she'll bring it.
Oh, no, you don't have to. They'll bring
I want to-
refreshments and coffee.
Stop,
There
they're
you go.
being smart Alex because I bought none of coffee.
No, they do.
I
You
called
did
and asked
what?
you.
You brought Ben a coffee?
I did, people.
Oh, okay.
And Michael.
So,
Let me write his name.
There'll be refreshments there tomorrow, I'm sure.
So does
my
everybody feel
goodness.
comfortable and confident moving into the action items, which would require
I
a
do.
more the formalized process? So, we start with the president, moving down to the vice president, secretary, and treasurer. So.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions before we move on?
I have one before we get to that point. Can we make a motion to avoid the dog and pony show of voting? Can we make a motion to have the board stay as it sits and just not waste our time doing all that? Or do we have to go through the motions of it? Good question, right?
You can make that motion. I suppose the worst case scenario is that you.
No one will second it?
Yeah, go
So
for
go ahead
it.
and
Go
make
for
that
it,
motion
Ken.
officially, so we can.
Are we to that one? Oh, I'd like to make a motion to leave the board positions as they stand today. Carrie president, Brian vice president, Stacy secretary, Mike treasurer, Lorraine, Ken, and Tony as trustees.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second. Any comments or questions? Joan, would you do roll call, please?
Sure. Lorraine,
No.
Mike,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Brian.
Yes.
Okay,
Motion carried.
motion carried. Thank you so much.
Do we have to do the one for the liaison, or the alternative and all
We
that, or
will.
no?
Yep.
Yes.
So we're
Okay.
on B now, which is calendar.
Calendar for this year.
Oh.
I need a motion to approve as
amended.
presented, as amended.
Well,
So moved. Right?
So
Stacy,
moved.
Got it?
Okay.
I'm sorry, Nancy.
Brian,
did I step on you?
You sure did, Brian.
any comments or questions?
He did something though.
He did, he did his job a little bit.
All right,
Wrong
be it
time.
resolved that the Swartz Creek Community Schools Board of Education approve the 2018 Board of Education meeting dates as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, board committee selection.
So we forgot to have that brief discussion, or we started to have that discussion.
Yes.
What did we do?
Are we able to take those 4 committees? Do we feel that's appropriate? And then we need to find people that are chairing that. The finance committee should be chaired by the board treasurer, so I think that one would be Mr. Ahern. But then we would need a chair for academic achievement, building and site, and if the board wants to add a policy committee, we would need to have a chair for that.
Do you think that would be a good idea if we did some homework on that and put some input, so we can kind of, have
On
the
the
president.
committees?
Yeah. Have people submit their interest.
How would
preference.
you prefer to do it? I know in the past, we've had people give us their choices for
What?
second.
Does anybody know in their mind right now what they want to do?
Let's
Or
see,
would you
yeah,
just
because
rather do it right now?
I'm not gonna put myself on any committee. So
Right.
That was the easy solution here.
Okay,
Ken is involved.
I'm available for any and all.
I am too.
okay. Which would you prefer, Mike? I know you're
How many can I pick?
the treasurer,
Easy, big fella.
Building and site for sure.
okay.
Easy big fella. Mike.
How many can I get?
I'll do a ball.
Well, let's just go down the
But
line. How does
I'll
that
be
sound?
on the other two also.
Okay, Stacy.
I think I would like to be on, I enjoy academic achievement. I like that one. I don't know, take everything over. I think I'd like to be on the policy one too, please.
Do you want to chair one of those?
Well, I already did, so I want to leave the opportunity for somebody else right now. And if not, I'll chair them. I have no problem with that.
Okay. Brian?
I would like to stay on the building site, and then I would work policy also, not as chair though.
What about building and site?
I would do chair again.
Lorraine?
No, I'm gonna be like Ken. I'm not gonna take any commitments at this time, but I've enjoyed attending them just as a committee of the whole.
Okay. Tony, do you want to chair any of those?
I like to do building and site and work with Mike on audit.
So I have no problem chairing either academic chair and policy, which both, or whatever you want me to do then. Okay? I don't know what you want me to do. What are you gonna do? We could take one or the other, how's that?
Do you want to chair a committee?
I'll work with Brian on building the site.
Okay, so what have we?
That was, okay, gotcha.
Good.
We got that.
I think
one.
Tony's committing a lot here tonight.
Brian.
Well, he is
Tony.
taking on
Academic
the
achievement.
County
Did-
Association.
did nobody
So I
else-
just committed
No,
to
just
nothing.
you and me.
Excuse me.
I'm
Did
sorry.
you say
Sure.
the internal audit?
The
You're
finance
gonna do
committee?
that?
Yes,
Yeah, with Mike,
that's
yes. I like to do
rotating.
internal audit.
We're not gonna have a
Building the site.
rotating
Okay.
member. No?
We are, right? No?
In a formal sense, it's technically it'd be committee of the whole, but you
Oh.
would have, so you could have anyone show, but you won't need a rotating member anymore. So you could have, if you and Tony are on the finance committee, if any other board member that would want to be there could be there.
Right.
So.
But Tony, you want to be a permanent member of the
Yes, yeah.
finance committee?
Okay.
Okay.
That was what I wanted.
So I don't care. We'll just do whatever. Ryan's this. We just need one more. Do we have to have 3 people on a committee?
You don't have to.
Then we can be okay here. So you take a chair and give me a chair.
Why don't I'll take the policy committee chair.
Good enough.
You want to take the Stacy, be the chair here?
Yeah, that
And then
academic
we'll-
achievement?
okay, yeah.
Okay, I like it. Thank you.
Okay, so right now,
Go on.
I'll go through, go ahead, you wrote it all down.
Do we have the personnel committee?
Do you want to go through what we have right now and be sure everybody's okay
Okay,
with it?
so if everybody's okay, so Ken and Lorraine are just gonna join in, not be any committees, but come. So academic achievement, I am the chair, Stacy, then Carrie's on that with me. But, what did I do? And they're talking about me. Building and site, Brian's the chair.
It's all bad though.
I
You want
know.
me to chair that, Brian?
I'm used to this.
If you'd like.
Mike and Tony, I got big shoulders.
Yeah.
Mike and Tony, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the internal audit review team, obviously Michael's the chair, and then Tony is on that permanently with him. Do I need to name the other people there?
Did you,
What did I
the
do?
building and site?
Brian,
Tony's
Mike, and
gonna
Tony.
chair.
Tony's gonna take that chair.
Oh, when did we do that?
And Brian
Just now.
will mentor him.
Brian and.
Nice,
Mike.
Tony.
So
Let's go
Tony's-
again. Do you want me to go again? Okay. I'm the chair for academic achievement, and Carrie's on that with me. Building and site, Tony is the chair, and Brian is the mentor, and Mike's on that. And then the internal audit review team is Michael's the chair, and Tony is alongside of him, and then Stacy and Marilyn are on that. And then policy, which we said once a month, maybe, right? Carrie's the chair, Stacy's on there, and Brian. Sound good? Okay.
So given that list, I need a motion to approve.
Why are you two so quiet now?
The committees is presented.
So
Yes.
move.
Support.
Ken and Brian, any comments or questions?
Did you say Ken?
I said, yeah.
Can support.
He goes, I said, yeah.
I said, yeah,
I thought it was Tony.
no.
It was Ken and then Brian.
I've
Be
taken
it
over his
resolved, the
voice.
Swartz Creek Community Schools Board of Education approved the 2018-19 board committee assignments as presented. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, GCA SBM liaison and alternative. I need a motion to nominate our primary representative and an alternate.
So moved.
So
Tony.
Tony as our primary.
Yeah, Tony, you got it.
And as our
Sonny.
liaison alternate,
Stacy.
Stacy.
So moved.
I'll hold your hand at those two.
Okay, so Stacy and then
Sounds like date
Brian.
night.
Any comments or
Oh, jeez.
questions?
Just coffee.
Hearing none, those in favor say aye. Tony and Stacy as our board liaison and
I'm looking for
alternate.
your eyes.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Do.
All right. Now we are on to comments from our public. If you have any
We've hung out this long.
comments for the board, please stand, state your name, and keep it to 3 minutes or less.
Okay, Melissa Neal. First of all, I haven't been to a board meeting since I've seen all of you here, and I want to, again, I think I did it at the marriage revoking, commend you. I felt welcome from the time I walked up that sidewalk, and I never felt that way coming to a board meeting, ever. So I commend you, and I thank you for that. Meeting nights, Stacy, please get it on a Tuesday or Thursday. I have board meetings the first and second Wednesday of every month.
I know, because I watch Vicky Salen's little kids. I know you do. I wish.
And meetings at the schools, I can probably speak for Gaines PTO. We would love to have you.
Okay.
It would be a great opportunity for our student council to see you in action and to see how a board is ran. And we would love to have you at our school.
Thank
That's
you.
all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Comments and questions from the board? Oh, we're gonna do that after our closed session. Correct? All right. Next, we have a closed session. We need to go into closed session for purposes of a complaint against an employee, strategy for related to negotiations, and then to consider a purchase of or lease of real property. Need a motion.
So moved. Support.
Okay. Mike and Brian, any comments or questions?
No.
All right. Be resolved that Swartz Creek Community Schools Board of Education go into closed session for the purposes of considering a complaint against an employee, OMA 15.268, Section 8A, for strategy related to negotiations, OMA 15.268, Section 8C, and to continue.
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes. We will go into closed session at 8:10.
And have cake.
Oh, we have cake.
Oh, okay. I'm so
Can
sorry.
offer that to you.
I thought about that since you know that I got into it.
And thanks to those of you in the public for attending. We appreciate it.
You know, I don't know if you want to write so people could get pineapple upside down cake, but
Thank you, Larry. That was very
Is the
good.
camera running right now?
It's resuming. It'll take about a minute and a half. 2
Then
minutes.
why, Jack Bedell, was it personal that he came back, or, I mean, was it?
I don't know. I found that out 2 days ago.
Are you?
I almost think, you know,
Yeah, I have a, so I actually went into the hospital last year. So there's in my sternum, like where your ribs come together,
Uh-huh.
they like get inflamed. And so it's almost like it's bone on bone rubbing together. And so I thought I was having like heart issues. But
Yeah.
as it turns out, it was just the inflammation there. So I've come to just learn when it happens. And it usually flares up in the winter.
Oh,
So it's a part
wow.
of getting old.
is it under
it part
stress
of the-
too? When you're under stress, more stress, was it?
Not usually. Just comes and goes at weird times.
Is it like the winter, like my Jeff gets like a chronic cough because of the winter, maybe when you're breathing in the cold?
It could be, but I never used to have the problem until last year, and I attribute it to bad diet and getting out of shape. So.
The inflammation of the tissue between.
Yeah.
Here's the pharmacist.
Right.
Wouldn't it be cool though to somehow
we've got him coming back to kind of use him somehow in that whole scenario.
It's
of
possible.
All of this going up and down.
Right.
Live now.
It's live,
Mhm.
okay.
I'm not-
Yeah.
For
it
purposes
could
of
be.
cake.
So basically, we'll do comments from the board, and then we do need to have that.
It'll be nice, I'll have them.
Good, it's 10:06.
You get all the sleep you need when you're dead, you're fine.
I just put snack and restaurant.
Yeah, but that's 30 years from now, Ted.
Got an hour drive, and we can catch a nap there.
That's right, yeah, you catch a nap
You
drive.
have an hour drive tonight?
No, tomorrow morning.
Oh, what time do you have to?
You can get one of those self-driving cars?
That's what rumble strips are
Nice
You're
call.
so funny.
You know, my son
That's good.
Adam, he's testing them and working on his car. I'm in the Camaro with him one day this past summer, and he said, "Watch this." He takes his hands off the wheel, and he's doing one of these numbers, and it's staying in between the lines.
Yeah, really?
It's not going to be
braking,
as bad
yeah.
as the night we did my evaluation.
That was bad.
That took me an hour and a half to get home.
Oh, that was snowing
That
hard
hurt.
that night.
Do you
Foot
take
of snow.
Expressway all the way, or can you take a back road?
I go
Yeah,
down to
too.
Grand Blanc Road.
Oh,
I find that to be a little quicker than Hill Road.
that's nice.
Take Seymour to Baldwin to Lindeman to Thompson.
23.
Oh, okay.
And if I'm coming into games in the morning, I come up
pretty big
Argentine.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good drive.
Hopefully we won't be here much
You need
longer.
to jump at 69.
It might be, yeah.
All right, so we are back in session at 10:04. We took a couple-minute break.
For snack.
So, for snack. And we have an opportunity for comments for the board? Yeah,
We're- yeah,
Brian,
we're at
you want
comments,
to start?
yeah.
Good meeting, man. Yeah, it's been a good meeting, productive. I like this.
Mike?
I want to wait a minute.
Okay.
Okay. Good meeting. Thank you, Ben, for everything. Thank you for always being transparent and being there for us. Yeah, I just thought it was a great meeting, so thanks to everybody. Thank you for the
everybody.
dessert.
Yeah, thank you. It was very good, very, very good. Okay.
Good.
Happy.
Okay, I have a couple things. First off, it kind of bothers me when our school colors are red and white. We have a policy that they're red and white. And it bothers me when I see our coaches running around in black, or our kids. Our colors don't have black, they're red and white. And when we're trying to brand our district and our community, it's red and white.
Like it.
Secondly, I've tried to find the date for the coming home game,
Yeah, I was just wondering that too.
and it's not on I could not find it on a website, so.
I'll go ahead and add that to my questions and I'll email
Well,
you.
you know what, I do have one comment.
We're not going backwards.
Oh, yeah.
We're going,
Done.
we're going counterclockwise.
How many snow days does this district allow?
So you're allowed 6, and once you surpass that, which because of our water main break, we likely will do that, just depending on how rough the rest of the winter is, we can apply for a waiver. If the waiver is denied, then we have to add days to the end of the school year.
Would the waiver be related to the water main break likely?
No, the
You can go
waiver,
up to 10
the
and
waiver
then
allows
you
you to potentially go up to 10 days if you
Yeah,
had.
that wasn't actually.
We get it twice.
You do, and they have historically allowed that, although they don't have to. So, we have to operate under the auspices that we might have to add
Right.
days.
Okay.
So, we don't wanna call days unnecessarily, but obviously if the roads have been really bad, particularly the last couple weeks, each day. So we have people driving all the back roads, and I'm usually up texting back and forth with people at 4, so. Yep.
Okay, one more thing. Effective upon the adjournment of the Swartz Creek Board of Education regular meeting on January 17th, 2018, I do resign my position as a Swartz Creek Board of Education member. I wish to thank the electors of the community who supported my efforts. It has been a pleasure and an honor to serve you. To the board, thank you for the adventure.
It's quite a surprise.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm not taking one. I'm not letting you quit.
Wow.
May I say something to that?
Sure.
I just want you to know that I wish you well. And if this is something that you wanted, then I really wish you well, but I have enjoyed the time I've had getting to know you. And I hope to continue that friendship. And I guess I'm proud of you for making that, but you'll be missed.
Thank you.
You will be missed.
Thank you, Lorraine, for your service. I'm grateful.
Yes.
And now, Mike, I understand why you wanted to go last.
I got two things. Just real brief. Do you have any update on the Germany trip? Is that all still going?
Rod, do you have anything?
They're all still planning. In fact, they want to come to academic achievement and somehow get their trips kind of on a semi-annual, 2-year, 3-year, so that they don't have to keep coming back for approval. So we'll talk about that in the next academic achievement.
And before you, so we can address that. I didn't get a board comment, and I don't need one, but I just want to say, this is unfortunate that I haven't had the opportunity to. I hope that you'll come to our next meeting, because I had something planned. I hope that you'll still come and attend. I have really come to appreciate your insights, and I think that you provide the board with a perspective that you think about things sometimes in a deeper way, in a different way than a lot of us do. And I'm going to miss that. I appreciate what you've done in your years of service to the community, and I know that your heart's in the right place and you care about the kids, and I just wish you the best. I hope you stay in touch.
Thank you.
And I would like to make a motion that we accept Lorraine's resignation.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Tony, any comments or questions?
Just sad.
Hearing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And I regrettably say aye.
Opposed.
I don't really want to say aye, but
Okay.
Take
All right. Last on our agenda this evening, we have a resignation to approve. The resignation is from Mr. Richard Thompson. I need a motion.
So moved.
Support.
Any comments or questions?
I do. Richard's a great friend. And I just feel very sad that happened. But I think that he's going to need people to be alongside of him and love him and be there for him. And I am not okay with saying yes to this, but I have to. So, I thank him for everything he's done for the kids. And I just hope there'll be people there to love him like he did. So thank you, but I'm trusting in your decision and just praying for him along the way.
So be it resolved, the Swartz Creek Board of Education accepts the resignation of Mr. Richard Thompson effective immediately, and we wish him well. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. With that, we will adjourn.
You gonna be okay driving home?
Yeah.
Sure.
Do you want a Tums?
No. How about some aspirin?
Well, I do have aspirin. You want to carry a bottle?
You're gonna
Is
miss
that why you told me to wait?
Yeah.
Is that why you told me to wait?
Thank you.
Stay in touch.